Good morning, Azra. It is nice to speak to you again. And you might have been expecting a continuation of To the Lighthouse. And I promise that I will continue with that for you. But I am still a little bit vague is probably the best word. Disorganized is also a good word for it. I am not very coherent. As you know, I slept most of yesterday, and that was very nice and very necessary. I think I was awake for maybe an hour, and the good news is that during that hour I received a book I had been waiting for. And it is that book which I would like to read this morning. It is simply called, excuse me, Aspects of Balkan Culture, Social, Political and Literary Perceptions. Which sounds very grand. I wonder if it will be. And the author is Jelena Milojković-Đurić. I think so. Milojković-Đurić. I hope that was almost correct. And I haven't had time to look at this properly, so I am just going to choose something. There are lots of interesting things in here, and it will expose me to a lot of the writings of your country and its culture. What I would like to do today, if you are agreeable, is the start the start of a chapter called National Origins of Petar Konjovic's Operatic Works. Because I like opera a lot, although I have never heard any Serbian opera. I shall try to listen to some today. And I know that because you are a prima ballerina, you will like classical music too. I do not think there is a chapter on Serbian ballet, unfortunately, because it would be all about you. So let us find out something about Konjovic. Well, I'm sure you know all about Konjovic. I know nothing about Konjovic. I shall just try to read this now. National Origins of Petar Konjovic's Operatic Works, from Aspects of Balkan Culture, by Jelena Milojković-Đurić. Although the beginning of the 20th century ushered in new outlooks into Serbian cultural life, the unresolved national issues continued to dominate the political, literary, and artistic scene. The return of the constitutional government in Serbia in 1903 stimulated further a cultural revival. The preparations for the centennial, that means centennial celebration, the 100th anniversary of the uprising against the Turkish domination, strengthened the collective national consciousness in a broader South Slavic context. Excuse me. During this period, the literary and artistic life in Serbia experienced a new vigorous growth. The magazines Slovenski Jug, Srpski Književni Glasnik, and Gladina were started, as well as a host of other publications, attracting outstanding contributors. The writers were in the forefront of the cultural rapprochement between the Serbs, Croats, Slovenes, and Bulgarians. At the same time, the writers aimed to strengthen professional and friendly ties with fellow artists and musicians. All these efforts led to the Conference of Yugoslav Writers and Artists that coincided with the first Yugoslav art exhibit and the first Congress of Yugoslav Youth. These events took place in Belgrade from the 2nd to the 8th of September 1904. King Peter I officially opened the first Yugoslav exhibit in Belgrade on the 5th of September 1904. The Poblatimstvo Student Union took an active part in the organization of these exceptional events. It was not surprising that during this eventful period, the young composer Petar Konjović wrote his first opera rooted in the tradition of Serbian epics. Konjović chose for the libretto, that's an Italian word meaning little book, it now means in English the text of an opera, chose for the libretto of his opera the poem, oh goodness me, Ženibda Miloša Obilića by Dragutin Ilić. He completed the first version of the opera in 1903, when he was barely 20 years old. Konjović's selection of this poem and his reliance on the national musical idiom pointed to his identification with the growing national aspirations. Moreover, Konjović's contemporaries, the composers Božidar Joksimović, Stanislav Binički, and Petar Krstić, also portrayed the national past, choosing historical themes and elements of folk music in their compositions. Similar interest in historic themes was prominent in the field of visual arts, both in Serbia and in Croatia. The genre of historic paintings and sculptures projected a renewed awareness of national identity. The artists, oh dear, Papa Jovanović, George Krstić, Marko Murat, Milko Rački, and the sculptors Ivan Meštrović, George Jovanović, amongst others, portrayed on their canvases and in their sculptures the historic images of epic grandeur Meshtrovic produced several imposing sculptures of legendary heroes and drew plans for the Vidovdan temple dedicated to the memory of the Kosovo battle. Konjovic was faithful to the tradition of historicity. I think that means historical accuracy. The tradition of historicity and oral epic poetry firmly established in Serbian culture. His second opera, Knez od Zete, was set in the medieval kingdom of Montenegro. Konjovic wrote the libretto for this opera based on a drama by Lazar Kostic, a well-known writer and national figure. In his last opera oratorio, Otajbina, Konjovic glorified the famous defeat of the Serbs on the Kosovo field in 1389. The libretto was based on the drama by Ivo Vojinović, Smrt Majke Jugovića. Vojinović, whose work belonged both to the Croatian and Serbian literature, wrote two plays based on the epic poems of the Kosovo cycle. Smrt Majke Jugovića and Lazarevo Vaskrsenia. Vaskrsenia? The play Smrt Majke Jugovića found many admirers and subsequently inspired two prominent composers to write their musical interpretations of Vojinović's play. The Slovenian composer Milko Polić and the Serbian composer Petar Konjovic. During his long professional career, Konjovic distinguished himself as the composer of well-known operatic, chamber, and symphonic music. As a writer, musicologist, administrator, and educator. Observed from a vantage point, Konjovic's many professional activities mirrored his efforts towards the realization of a Yugoslav union, uniting the neighboring South Slav peoples. His first artistic achievements in 1916 were supported by the Croatian National Theatre and the opera in Zagreb. After the end of the First World War, Konjovic took active part in the political and cultural unification, and for the realization of ideological aspirations formed in his youth. Konjovic served as the director of the Zagreb Opera from 1921 to 1926, and he proved to be a capable administrator. Thus, he was called to serve as director of the Croatian National Theatre in Zagreb from 1933 to 1935. And I think I shall leave it there for today, because it is new to me, all of this, and I am not reading it very well. I hope it made sense to you. I'm sure that some of it did, and I am sure that you know far more about this subject than I do, so I do not want to waste your time. It is nice to learn things about other countries, especially your country. Good, right. Have a really, really good day. I will try to wake up, and I will try to think, and I will be in touch with you, I hope. All the very best wishes, Azra. Goodbye.